We've heard so many wonderful things today, but just for a moment, I'd like you to listen to something else. Well, that was an awkward 15-ish seconds of silence, wasn't it? And let me tell you, standing up here in front of all of you, I hated every second of it. And I'm betting some of you may have as well. I mean, silence can be a strange thing. Oftentimes there's so much noise in the world that we don't even notice the loudness until it goes away and we're left to sit in that sudden quiet. Since noise is so abundant in our lives, it's important that we fully comprehend the benefits and maybe more importantly, the dangers. According to the European Environmental Agency, noise ranks second only to air pollution as a type of environmental exposure most harmful to our public health. When in excess, it literally increases the risk for diseases and can damage brain functions, but there's still so much more to it. So let's cut through that noise by first taking a pause as we discuss the categories that we can break noise into, as well as their effects. Then we'll zip our lips as we learn the harms that constant noise has on all living things. And finally, we'll quietly listen to the benefits of learning to appreciate silence. Okay, I'll admit I may have lied just a little in the beginning. There are times when I actually love silence, but I love noise too. I mean, there is nothing better than driving in the summer with the windows down, music up. But there is a limit, a place where noise becomes more than just fun, but actually unhealthy. Since noise is so prominent in our lives, it can be hard to dial in on what is and is not considered to be healthy. Law Insider defines this unhealthy noise as excessive or unusually loud sound, which does annoy, disturb, injure, or endanger the comfort, health, and safety of any person or thing. This definition quickly cuts to the chase, explaining that too much noise can not only be super irritating, but actually harmful, and not just to our hearing. See, even if we've all become so accustomed to it that we no longer notice, in our world there's such a buzz of noise that constantly surrounds us. Technology is developing faster than ever before, and while the ease it brings is nice, it does tend to make life just a little bit louder. It's estimated that by 2050, whether by choice or not, roughly 70% of the world's population will be living in cities. This means that 70% of all people will be subjected to the effects, both positive and negative, of being surrounded by all that hustle and bustle. That constant stimulation that is caused by noises in cities is actually one of the leading reasons that mental health risks greatly increase for city dwellers. According to the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology, noise can increase the susceptibility to mental health concerns, such as anxiety, depression, behavioral problems in children and adolescents, and suicide. But how specifically does this work? Well, that constant stimulation we talked about activates a sort of fight or flight response, which then leaves us more vulnerable to these concerns. Which then raises a different question. Why do we seek out noise? Whether it's listening to music in the car or falling asleep to some sort of background noise, the need for filler sounds may actually indicate signs of mental unwellness. And hey, if I'm ever not jamming out to my radio while driving, seriously come check on me. But it all comes down to the intention. And all too often, noises are used as an escape, becoming a sort of safety clutch. Jenna Carl, a clinical psychologist and the chief medical officer at Big Health, explains that background noises may be used in an attempt to distract from or to avoid unpleasant emotions and thoughts. While to some degree this is totally fine, we don't want to dodge our emotions completely or forever. Otherwise, this will just add to that constant cycle of worsening our mental health. But however bad it is on us humans, we need to realize that this problem doesn't just affect us. The noise around us comes from truly everything. Traffic, your phones, overhead airplanes, and so much more. You don't just have to live in a city to feel its negative effects. In fact, you don't even have to be a person. Audible communications play a critical part in an animal's life function, as they're what builds the foundation for successful social relationships among creatures, and can even mean the difference between life and death for some species. However, we're finding that these acoustic transmissions are being contaminated by background noises, meaning those messages aren't being received as clearly. Wind and other natural noises have always played a part in this. Still, we're finding more and more that anthropogenic noises, which is to say, noises that affect the environment that are directly caused or influenced by us people, are increasingly altering the lives of both aquatic and terrestrial species. Experts say that noise pollution can interfere with breeding cycles, rearing, and is even hastening the extinction of some species. Now, can one person just go and fix all of this? Sadly, no. So it's just something to consider for your everyday actions. Now, if at this point any of you are starting to wonder, but tell me again, why does this affect me? Just wait. And remember, according to the World Health Organization, noise is one of the most hazardous forms of pollution worldwide. Now, in 2002, Munich's airport was relocated, so scientists decided to study the effect that this would have on children's health and cognition. So, in the months leading up to and after the relocation, kids in both the old and new places were regularly tested on a variety of different factors. They found that so great was the effect of those air traffic noises on the kids that whichever location had those planes passing constantly overhead resulted in worsening reading comprehension skills, worse long-term memory, and increased stress, even when those noises couldn't be directly perceived by our human ears. This means that we and other species can be affected negatively, even if we're not realizing it, which is exactly why more of us need to know about these effects. Have any of you ever stopped to consider just how go our lives really are? Think about it. I mean, for me, if I'm not in class, I'm talking to a friend, or I'm at sports practice, or speech and debate practice, or I'm driving from place to place. Then if I ever do have a spare moment, I'm listening to music, or I'm scrolling on my phone, and it's exhausting. For many of us, the only time that our brains truly get to rest is when we're asleep. But studies show, without having to completely clear your mind, just being at a state of rest gives different parts of your brain opportunities to interact with each other and perform functions that can only take place when we aren't actively doing something. So, how do we increase our time spent in this state of rest? Simple. Silence. Just like that. I know it can be awkward or annoying, but silence is truthfully so important. To put it in the simplest way possible, we need more downtime. Now, I know I'm up here making a whole lot of noise about why you all shouldn't, but just trust me on this. According to medical examiner Mark Leonard, it can be as simple as looking up a meditation video on YouTube, or just setting a 5-minute timer and learning to embrace the solitude and the quiet. The more that you do so, I bet you'll be surprised at how quickly that time passes and how free you'll feel afterwards. This is because when we practice solitude and silence, we allow our brain to process our emotions rather than suppressing them and remaining on autopilot. Additionally, little breaks do boost our concentration and our performance, reducing the chances of our burnout and stress. Psychologist Dr. Scott Bia explains this by likening our brains to sponges. He says that our brains can only handle so much information before they're fully saturated and they need to dry out a bit. So please, if you've been feeling off lately, overly stressed, or like life is just a little bit hopeless, and if you're looking for a simple solution, begin to prioritize this silence. In a society where busy feels like a badge of honor, this is more important than ever. According to studies by psychologist Alicia Goldstein, 10 minutes is preferable, but just 5 minutes spent a day in silence will significantly improve your well-being. With so much to gain, what's the harm in giving silence a try? Noise is powerful. It surrounds us, which by itself isn't a bad thing, but today we took a pause to discuss noise's categories and its effects. Then we zipped our lips to learn the harms that constant noise has on all of us. And finally, we quietly listened to find a fix. Something as simple as this. As simple as silence. Well, I know sitting quietly in an auditorium might not be everyone's idea of a great Saturday, but we all have to choose silence and learn to respectfully shut up. Don't worry, it's for your own good. Thank you.